last resort, hidden under vines and autumn leaves, waiting there for you to come when it was just too hard. Sit there with your hands upon the wheel. You can run. The getaway car could take you there, any place you need. Around the corner, up into the sky. But somewhere on this highway, you forgot that you could dream. Forgot that you could break the speed of life. You can run, but you won't get far. Now you locked your keys in the getaway car. Drawn into the high-speed chase, fight for bottom line. Sirens push the pedal to the floor. The getaway car is rusty, but you know that it can shine. So fill her up again and let it roar. You can run, but you won't get far. Now you locked your keys in the getaway car. You can run, but you won't get far. Now you locked your keys in the getaway car. Everyone forgets about this place, but we all need a little time and space. You can run, but you won't get far. You can run, but you won't get far. Now you locked your keys in the getaway car. You can run, but you won't get far. Now you locked your keys in the getaway car. You can run. You can run. You can run. You can
In the video for the song Two Bare Hands, what is the second language used besides English?
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another Throwback Thursday listening party. I'm Brian. We are Enter the Haggis, but for this week, we are going to be listening to an album by a band called Jubilee Riots, released in 2014. To address the elephant in the room right off the top, Trevor, Why would a band change their name after almost 20 years building a brand and a loyal fan base?
That's the question, isn't it? We didn't go into this with the intention of changing the band name. We just we got into the record and sort of followed our instincts musically, which set us in what we felt to be a different enough course than we'd taken over the last bunch of albums. And as a result, we thought it needed a different name to name for the project.
It's funny because I remember sitting and having a conversation in the studio with our producer Jonathan Wyman when we told him we were thinking about changing the name, and he told us we were crazy. I mean, he came around to the idea, and Jonathan, he was very supportive and very positive, but like you could tell he thought we were crazy. And we kind of steamrolled ahead with it. Our agent quit almost immediately, which was somewhat shocking at the time. I do want to apologize to the one or two people out there who went and got Jubilee Riots tattoos after I personally assured them that we would always be Jubilee Riots and the name would never change again. So my bad. But I do think that we came up with a really solid record. I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I went back and went through a bunch of these songs. So the album opens with a song that's incredibly appropriate and incredibly apocalyptic called Trying Times. Trevor, you wrote this one, and give a little bit of the background and maybe tell people the story of how this record came to be.
Well, for those of you who've tuned in for the last listening party, we did The Modest Revolution based on one issue of a Toronto newspaper, and we had a lot of fun with that writing concept idea. So we were looking for something else along similar lines where we could sort of have a go-to source of inspiration for the lyrics for the album. And our fans, friends, Haggis heads have they've always been very much a part of. I mean, we couldn't do this without them, obviously, without you guys. And we wanted to find a way to bring people into the fold a little bit. So, and something that Brian has said before in describing this is just that, everybody has a great story, a family story, a personal story, a story that they heard from a friend. That's the first story that they would tell at a party or on a first date or whatnot. So those were the types of stories we were looking for, and we were amazed by the response that we got from fans. Poor Mark, I don't know how many pages. Mark could probably tell you exactly how many pages worth of letters arrived, because I'm based in Canada. Brian was based in Canada. The rest of us were based in Canada at the time, I think. Brian, you were in Canada, yeah. So we needed someone in the U.S. We needed a U.S. mailing address to have these letters sent to, and Mark, by default, was that guy. So how many pages of letters did you get there, Mark?
Good question, but I'm going to guess around 900 or something like that. And I'm not sure if all of you guys, because I had to scan them all in, so I read every letter. I'm not sure if you guys read every single letter, but I had the privilege of reading every letter, and it's pretty interesting to hear people's stories, and dark stuff, light stuff, happy times, down the dumps times. But it was it was a cool thing to be able to do, to have the chance to hear everyone's stories. Yeah,
I kind of wonder whether we should next time we're writing a record, we should look for everybody's coronavirus stories. What's everybody done in quarantine for a year? I'm sure there's going to be lots of. Well, actually, I don't actually know how interesting that would be. There'd be a lot of people. I'm wearing pajama pants right now, so.
At least you're wearing pants.
So, Trev, what was the inspiration behind this song in particular? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. Nope.
So,
I thought we had a spreadsheet here of all the associated. I did do a blog.
You also did a
around
copy
that
of the book.
Time, which I was reading through to see have a sort of refresh our memories. A lot of these songs are loosely based on stories. There'd be a few words, and in one of the letters letters here or there. Some of them are very much based on stories. This one, I think, was just kind of loosely based on a story that somebody sent, but certainly the idea of trying times is certainly a universal one.
So, is there anything particular kind of interesting musically about this song that anybody would want to talk about? We have a music video for it, which is what I'm going to be playing in a minute, which was animated by a British guy, I think. Is that correct? Whose name currently escapes me, but it's somebody we found on a website and reached out to, and they put together a really cool animated video for us. One thing about this record is that there are 0 bagpipes on this album, and that wasn't really, I don't think that was intentional at all. It's never really intentional. We just never really, in the list of songs that we wrote for this record, nothing really seemed like pipes were the best fit. And Craig had been playing trumpet more, and a lot of the songs kind of seemed to lean in that direction. And that's partially what inspired us to eventually change the name of the band for this record, because it just didn't feel like a haggis record if it didn't have any bagpipes and very little like fiddle at the forefront or sort of Celtic elements. So,
Yeah, I think we were just we're focused on trying to craft the best songs that we could, and we weren't thinking about the sound necessarily. I feel like, anyway, from my perspective, fans of the band, they like both of those things. They like the story aspect of the songs. They like well-crafted songs that are maybe the lyrics have drawn inspiration from something other than just, a love story for the most part, like a lot of pop music is. But certainly the instrumentation of the band is something that is quite unique. But it's great that Craig has such an arsenal of sounds as well. There's certainly a bunch of whistle over it, and harmonica. There's Trying Times has that blasting harmonica solo.
That's right. Live, Craig played harmonica and synthesizers. We wound up buying a Moog Little Fatty just to bring on the road with us after we recorded this record, because Jonathan had one in the studio, and it was such a cool piece of gear. We wound up using it on like half the tracks on the album. So Trevor went and found one. And at first Trevor was playing it, and then Craig was playing it, and now it's the one that I play on stage. So it's kind of made the rounds. But Craig, do you want to talk at all about the harmonica solo you played on this track? Because I remember it being you just went in there with a bullet mic and just let wail.
Yeah, it was a weird situation for that song. We'd never done anything like it. Really, it's completely different from anything we'd ever done. I can't really think of anything that would compare. So I didn't really know what to play at all, and I experimented with a couple of different harmonicas. And there's that one sort of freight train blast on it that I'm still trying to reproduce. And I think what happened is I think we had several takes, and I believe Jonathan combined a couple of harmonicas. So it's crazy. It's been on my mind lately. How can I reproduce that? Because I think there's a minor second in it. A couple of notes are only a minor second apart, and that's what makes it so horrifying at the start.
Maybe there's a piece of food stuck in there.
Most likely. Yeah, I remember working on that, and I remember being a riot. But man, one guy I wish we'd talk to was Matt Carlin, because he had he took we had all these people come out as part of the Kickstarter and sing on it, and he was running an a cappella group in Rochester. I think where did he go? Juilliard? Is that right?
I don't remember.
No.
Anybody else remembers? Matt, we're sorry if we're listing the wrong alma mater here, but he was at the time when we met him. He was running an a cappella group in Rochester made up of Rochester University students, and they recorded a cover of "One Last Drink," which is how we met him to begin with. And he came out, and he was the one who orchestrated all the crazy gang vocals, and especially in this song, he came up with stuff that we never would have done. Like, it wound up being a huge part of the sound of the song and the mix, and like it's an element that not one of the five of us would ever have come up with, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was fantastic. I just didn't know what to expect at all. We even had I don't know if it was during that song or what, but there was a proposal at one point.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was during that song, but we'll come back to that later. Let's get to some
Yeah.
let's get to some music here, because that's what people are here for. So, first track on Jubilee Riots, Penny Black. This is Trying Times.
I don't know what's taking me so long, taking me so long tonight. Mind's in a frost, I feel a little lost, like a criminal without a crime. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. Dumb ass and chain, waiting for a train or anything to soothe my soul. Heartbreaking rage, a plague upon the page. How many ways will it be told? If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. I'm telling you, telling you, telling you. I'm telling you, it's trying times. I'm telling you, telling you, telling you. I'm telling you, it's trying times. I'm telling you, telling you, telling you. I'm telling you, it's trying times. I'm telling you, telling you, telling you. I'm telling you, it's trying times. I throw my hands in the air like a gospel choir. Throw a song to the world for a flood that could kill the fire. Here comes, if we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times. If we don't come together, we might fall apart. I'm telling you, it's trying times.
The next track on Penny Black is called Two Bare Hands, and it's kind of a pop song that was actually a lot of fun to write and record and a lot of fun to play live. It's the first introduction of a great big 80s sounding synth ever in Enter the Haggis music, or Jubilee Riots music, I think. And Trevor just reminded me of something from the writing process that I'll let him fill you in on.
Oh, just Brian's reaction to the idea of using that kind of 80s inspired synth sound. I remember we were working in Bruce's basement studio, and I just remember Brian sitting at the keyboard with his head leaning against the microphone. He was just like, he's so disappointed that we were going in that direction.
Well, see, the thing is, when we came up with that line, I think we were approaching this song a slightly different way before, and then somebody made the suggestion to kind of go in this other sort of poppier direction. And I think I was just in a bad mood, and I pulled up this synth patch, and I think I played it sarcastically. Like, I think I basically felt like the song was turning into like an 80s pop song, so I threw in an 80s pop synth, and you guys loved it. I forget the first people we played it for also loved it, and then I was like, oh man, what did I do? Now I've got to actually go with this and find a way to make it work. But as often happens, it grew on me. I actually wound up liking it after a while.
It's passive-aggressive songwriting, co-writing session there.
We did a video for this song, filmed all over the town of Guelph, Ontario. Our friend Matt Connell came down from, came up from Chatham, Ontario, and spent a day with me and my buddy Sam Brown and my friend Julie Vanderwerf and a bunch of students from the University of Guelph who were in the University of Guelph American Sign Language Club, or Canadian Sign Language Club, I guess. I think there probably is a distinction there. And it was a lot of fun. None of them had ever really been on camera before. We translated, I think it's the lyrics of the chorus. We translated or some sort of a sentiment from the chorus. Because I didn't know this going in, that ASL, it's not a word for word translation. You can't necessarily just take a sentence and translate it word for word into ASL. It's all about interpretation. So people will sort of get the idea of a phrase across. And the first person we sent it to, I don't remember who it was, but they sent us a translation, which we started using. And then we, just to be safe, sent that translation to somebody else who was also an interpreter, and they said that it was complete gibberish. And so we had already filmed a bunch of stuff, and then we wound up going back and reshooting a lot of stuff to a different translation. And honestly, if there's anybody out there who speaks ASL or signs fluently, feel free to let us know in the chat if what we're saying doesn't make any sense at all, because we did our best. It was our best effort, but I make no guarantees as to the efficacy of our effort. Mark, this song has a really cool bass part.
Thank you.
I'm getting you on camera, man.
What do you like about it?
I don't know. It just always kind of struck me. I remember right off the very top of the song, one of the things that was fun about this was just you and I playing that kind of arpeggiated thing together, and it's just bass and electric guitar kind of playing in harmony, which is something we don't do very often.
Oh, right. I forgot about the intro. Was the guitar and bass duo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun too. And I mean, and then you were talking earlier about the 80s or whatever kind of synth thing. But I was one of the probably first people to say, hey, that's cool. But I just like the way everything worked together. Like that sound. Again, nothing Celtic about it, which again goes back to the name change. But I've always really liked the song a lot. Yeah.
It's kind of funny. You've been playing in a band for that many years. It's exciting to kind of step out of your comfort zone sonically and try some different stuff. So I think all of us found satisfaction in that whole process.
It's funny to think. I remember having the conversation during the recording of this record. I think we were talking about Mumford & Sons, and we kept on coming back to, like, you can just keep on doing the same thing over and over again and retreading old ground and just, put out another Mumford & Sons record that sounds like the last Mumford & Sons record. And then they went and put out a synth rock album. So I guess it's not just us. All right, we'll get back to some music then. This song is Two Bare Hands.
We're so grateful for the ones we rely on, who lean back upon us, it seems so strong. But a time comes when there's no one around you. You do all that you can do with your brain and your brawn. Haven't I, better watch where you're going. Look alive, look alive, look alive. Oh, you will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. You will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. You're beating hard and your two bare hands. It's a fine line between comfort and callous. We're finding our balance in this tightrope life. And you got good friends who would do anything for you, but you may be calling when their hands are tied. So haven't I, better watch where you're going. Look alive, look alive, look alive. Oh, you will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. You will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. You're beating hard and your two bare hands. Well, I hope the words come when I sing, because I've seen the bright light flicker, fade and swing. Yeah, I've been lucky, my life's been sweet, but it's a stone's throw from my bed to the street. You will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. You will find that sometimes all you have, you're beating hard and your two bare hands. 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 You're beating hard and your two bare hands.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on the chat this evening, and welcome from Maine. I've been in Maine about 15 years now, and we had the privilege of recording Penny Black here in Maine. So that was a fun experience for me to be able to be going home every evening. What's Maine usually associated with? Lobsters and moose. So let's go with a moose trivia question. Maine has the highest moose population of any of the lower 48 states. So get rid of Alaska, lower 48. For reference, Idaho had the most out west at 11,000. And the state next to Maine, New Hampshire, has about 3,000 to 4,000. So without Googling it, what's the moose estimated population in the state of Maine? And go.
The next track, track 3 on Penny Black, is a song called The President's Shoes, which is a fun song with it kind of has a different sound from just about anything else that we've ever recorded. There's synths in it. There's a cool like Edge U2 style guitar intro thing that I played with a dotted eighth delay on the guitar. Craig plays some great trumpet stuff, and it's kind of a fun song. One thing that I'll mention about this song is that it almost didn't make the record because the original approach to this song was very much in a sort of bastardized South African Paul Simon Graceland kind of vibe. And we liked it, it was fun, but it felt a little bit cheesy. And I don't remember really when in the process it was that we decided to take it in a different direction. Does anybody remember sort of how that happened?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan thought it was worth working through. I remember spending a fair bit of time with it. I know we were about to let it go. Yeah, I mean, it's a great studio space that Jonathan has. Just kind of a big open room with an upright piano and a whole bunch of gear. It's almost got a bit of an old barn feel to it. It's pretty cool, vibey place. Yeah, I'm not sure how we transitioned to the minor. I think it was based on that guitar line you were playing. You know.
I don't remember how I came up with that. I think I was just playing with the delay that I had in my pedal board, and I'd never really done anything like that. And I was probably trying to figure out how you two did it, because it was just sort of an effect that I was messing around with. And I think I probably tried it on 3 or 4 songs before before it wound up making sense on President's Shoes. But yeah, I think the original had like a whistle line and stuff. Is that right, Greg? Do you remember any of that?
Not really, because I remember focusing a lot on the trumpet. I can't remember what was they doing on a whistle? Just hitting the high notes?
I think we were going for that Graceland kind of vibe. I think you were sort of just playing.
Oh, yeah. We decided not to go with it.
Yeah. So this song sonically is one of my favorite ones on the record. I think it sounds really cool. There's a bunch of weird verbed out piano stuff that I played. There actually wound up being quite a few extra instruments on this song. I think I played the Rhodes on it. The story of the song, this is one of the few songs that's very directly influenced by one specific letter, which is a letter that was sent to us by a fan and friend named Mary Burtke, who lives in Columbus, Ohio. And Trev, what was the story?
It was a story about her grandparents who went. I think it was on their honeymoon. They went to D.C. and just sort of happened to run into a protest that was happening on the steps of the White House. And they ended up doing a tour of the White House at the time.
All of the doors were locked until the last one, far down the hall, which Grandpa opened just in time to hear President Herbert Hoover say to Chief of Staff General Douglas MacArthur, "I want you to get that rabble off the lawn." The rabble being, of course, the World War I veterans. Then the president looked over to the open door at my grandfather and asked, "Who the hell is he?"
That is a great story. It really is.
Pretty amazing. But they slipped under the velvet rope when they were on the tour at one part, and they ended up going through an open door. And I don't think it was I'm not sure exactly what room it was, but anyway, I guess there had been a meeting with Hoover in there, and they saw the President's Shoes, which didn't seem. It seemed like it could be a little bit more exciting in the actual song lyrics. So
yeah, I
embellished it a little bit. It was going to be either I smelled the President's shoes or I smelled the President's shoes. So.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. So again, like you were saying in the intro, Trevor, everybody's got one amazing story that follows through their family, and it's cool that some of the songs were so directly inspired. This one is called "The President's Shoes."
Sometimes history points to you and the crowd says, "Hey, come on, let's go." And sometimes you gotta break in the back door and make yourself at home. So I wondered. Sometimes history points to you and the crowd says, "Hey, come on, let's go." And sometimes you gotta break in the back door and make yourself at home. So I wandered the halls like a comp on the beat, whistling the stars and stripes a little out of key. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. So tonight I'm going dancing out. press your luck. 'Cause there's no turning back around or over, under, sideways, through, just lace them up. I heard the president's words, get the rabble off the lawn. 1,000 years still ringing from the guns in Vietnam. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. So tonight I'm going dancing, I just feel I gotta move. Tonight I'm going dancing, I just feel I gotta move, move, move. I'm gonna wake up with a grin upon my face. Put my feet up on the table and open up the paper to the page. 'Cause I don't care if they catch me, I'll confess to what I've done. The FBI can ring my doorbell, no, I'm not gonna run. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. I stole the president's shoes. So tonight I'm going dancing, I just feel I gotta move. Tonight I'm going dancing, I just feel I gotta move, 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 move.
The next track on Penny Black is basically a country song. And for some reason, I don't listen to country music, but for some reason, once every 2 or 3 albums, I write a country song and convince the guys that we should record it. This song is kind of just a standard breakup song. And I was actually going through a breakup when we recorded this record, which seems to be a common theme. One thing that's kind of funny about this song for me is I remember when I was sitting working on writing this song, and it was at the Buffalo Irish Festival, and there was a band on stage about 20 feet away called Burning Bridget Cleary, and I was sitting on a rock with an acoustic guitar writing the guitar parts for this particular song, Unsteady. And of course, Burning Bridget Cleary was fronted by the woman who I eventually married, my wife Rose. So it's funny to have that kind of connection that I specifically associate writing this song with Rose, even though it's not about her. We were joined by an amazing guest vocalist on this song, Heather Robb of the band The Spring Standards, based out of Brooklyn, although I think she lives out in LA now. And she also played auto harp. There was an auto harp at the studio, and none of us really even knew what it was, and she played it. So she played auto harp on the record too. But yeah, she was amazing. She and I cut the vocals for this more or less live together on opposite sides of a booth glass with our own microphones so that we could just kind of look at each other while we sang the song and match each other's phrasing and stuff. And I swear it didn't take her more than like a take or two to get it perfect. So without any further ado, we'll just get into some more music. This one's called Unsteady.
Spin around town. I'm not doing much for you, baby. Won't you you need. You think I'm in the dark, yeah, you think I can't see the trouble in your eyes when you're looking at me. Something feels different now, and I can breathe. When I see you now, I get a little unsteady. Don't go breaking my heart before I'm ready. You were trouble right from the start. You're breaking my heart. I know it's gonna leave me feeling heartsick and hollow. Words won't make it any easier to swallow. Whatever else you are, you're my favorite scar. First time I saw you, I was broken and bruised. You were holding up the bar and I had nothing to lose. It's all a little hazy now. Tell me, when did we get so damn proud? Made a few mistakes, but I made them with you. And every time I said that we were gonna pull through, something feels different now, and it's not me. When I see you now, I get a little unsteady. Don't go breaking my heart before I'm ready. You were trouble right from the start. You're breaking my heart. I know it's gonna leave me feeling heartsick and hollow. Words won't make it any easier to swallow. Whatever else you are, you're my favorite scar. Maybe we can figure out a fix for this. Maybe we can still be friends. Maybe this is the way that it ends. All I want is a way to forget. We're only human and I'm not about to quit on us yet. Maybe if we take some time, we can heal. When I see you now, I get a little unsteady. Don't go breaking my heart before I'm ready. You were trouble right from the start. You're breaking my heart. I know it's gonna leave me feeling heartsick and hollow. Words won't make it any easier to swallow. Whatever else you are, you're my favorite scar.
That was Unsteady, and we moved from Unsteady into a sort of a duo of tracks here, a back-to-back called Porch Light and Traveler. Porch Light's just kind of an ambient intro track to the song Traveler, which I don't honestly really remember where Porch Light came from. I know Jonathan reversed the piano and messed with it a lot and kind of created something, but I have like a very, very fleeting memory of having grabbed the piano part from something else that we were working on and pulling it onto my laptop and then messing around with it in the studio while we waited for Jonathan to finish doing something else, but I don't want to take credit for it if I'm remembering that inaccurately. But anyways,
I like the sound of the piano in that. I mean, generally throughout the record, I think he just had a 57 on it, just a really cheap mic on it for a bunch of the songs. I know for Trying Times, he was like, we were saying, maybe I was saying, can we put a few mics on it so that we're not committed to having like sort of a really lo-fi vibey upright piano? And he was like, no, we're not. It's the kind of stuff Bruce has talked about in recording before, just making these types of choices and committing to them and then sort of forming the song and the sounds of the song around that particular sound. So so we ended up recording much of the piano with just like a really cheap microphone.
That's right. I forgot about that. And it is an upright. It's a kind of a vibey upright piano that Jonathan has at his studio there. So it's not like a big hi-fi grand piano like we've had on previous records. Like we were talking about the Bosendorfer on White Lake and things like that.
Didn't the name Porch Light, didn't that come between out of a conversation between yourself and Glenn?
Yep.
It's also in this. It's also part of the lyrics from Traveler, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Is that one line?
Yeah, there was a time shortly before Glenn quit drinking alcohol forever for good when he was talking about starting a beer company. So he kind of went in both directions. I had suggested the name Porch Light for his brewery. And so that was a thing that he was working on, and we were working on like designing labels, and then he stopped drinking beer, and so that never actually happened. But yeah, and then so getting into Traveler, Trevor actually wrote most of the lyrics for this song.
There were a few songs like that where we were like approaching the recording of the album, and Brian had either no lyrics for it or just sort of like little bits of lyrics. So I sat down and I typed up a few of those songs and just said, hey, what do you think about, here's some ideas maybe to help get you started. So yeah, I was starting to get worried. But you always get it done. I mean, in the past, even if you haven't had lyrics, you write them in the studio. You get them done. I don't know. I was trying to be helpful, I guess.
Well, to be fair, I only actually wrote 2 of the songs on this album, and you wrote the lyrics to one of them. So,
Oh, jeez.
and the other one, Unsteady, I wrote a lot of those lyrics with Heather. So I didn't want to finish it because I wanted her to be sort of part of the writing of it. So I waited until she came to the studio, and then we kind of wrote the lyrics together. A lot of them, anyways. So I was pretty lazy lyrically on this album, is what I'm trying to say.
Traveler is one. I think it's one of my favorite songs we've ever done as a band.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever played it before.
Nope, we haven't.
I love the arrangement. It's really quirky. We were talking about when it goes to that transitions to that kind of swung section in the bridge, talking about that band Martha and the Nuclear So-and-Sos.
Yeah, that's right. Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos.
Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. They had one particular song. I don't remember if it changed feels dramatically like that, or if that middle part was just reminiscent of that particular song or what. But
they had a few songs on that debut album that were in that kind of swung, kind of lazy feel. But there's one in particular called Quiet as a Mouse. It has this kind of huge breakdown, and then it comes back to like horns, sort of in a kind of quirky New Pornographers indie rock kind of way. I know that I had the chords and the melodies and stuff to this song written quite a while before we actually record. I remember working in pre-production at Bruce's place, and I think I initially had a totally different feel for that bridge. And I don't know who it was. Maybe it was you who suggested like trying that kind of swung thing. And it felt a little schmaltzy when we first did it because the piano, and it felt like a little bit like Vegas loungy. So it was a bit of a challenge and coming up with horn lines. Craig, do you remember doing the horn parts for that?
I remember that I was working on it. I remember that I wanted to keep it really straight, no vibrato, just ba-ba-dee-dee-da-da. And then I remember it was your birthday, and you had gone out, and someone had taken you out for your birthday, and you came in and grabbed the pencil off of me and started scrawling something out. Like, oh, well, he's got an idea here. What the heck's going on? You put in some really high notes. I was like, I don't know if I have the lips for this.
It sounds great.
I was very thankful that we had good technology so that I could make sure I had enough tries to get it right. I don't think it took that long, but yeah.
I do remember Craig and I were sitting there saying, let's write these harmonies. Let's just do it before Brian gets back. You know, we're totally capable of this. And then we were just like hitting our heads against the desk. It seemed like for days until Brian got in there and it was done like in a few minutes.
To be fair, whenever I write a song, usually it's been knocking around in my head for so long that like the chords and like the melody lines and stuff are pretty second nature to me at that point. Like I'm so deep in it that usually writing harmonies and stuff isn't that difficult. But Bruce, did you do anything interesting in this song? I want to get you. No, okay.
I like this song too. I listened to it this morning for probably the second time. I don't know, since we we listened to it at the studio, I would imagine. So yeah, it was cool. I remember coming up with that sort of swing section. Yeah, it was cool. That was a challenging song. It's always challenging when there's like a sort of busy floor tom pattern, how that's going to work with the bass and the low end of stuff, and then transitioning into that swung thing. I always thought it had kind of like a sort of the Beatles-y meets Sloan meets Ben Folds 5 kind of. That's how I sort of thought of that section.
Okay, well, let's get to the music then. This is a twofer. This is Porch Light and Traveler.
I'm awake, no safety net, no fire escape, pounding blood, icy hands, watching all the falling grains of sand. How can I abandon this, the only home I know? Leaving's not as hard as letting go. Oh, my Father, am I far enough from you? As I wander, like we always knew I'd do, I forgive you, but on a night like this I cannot pretend that I miss you, and you will not see me soon.
Next year, in 2021, we'll be heading over to Scotland. We will at one point be staying close to Blair Castle, which is the home of Europe's only private army. What is the name of this army?
Next song is Cut the Lights. The inspiration for this song, again, we got all these letters that came in from fans, which was amazing. And I remember what I first did with the letters was I kind of read through them and then grouped them by categories, because these distinct themes sort of came up time and again out of the letters. So there were like, there were a lot of war stories that came in, people's relatives who had fought in the First or Second World War. There were, breakup songs like Unsteady was one of those songs. There were love songs, just people meeting, the way they met the love of their life. And Cut the Lights was just, I tend to write these shipwreck or war songs, over, a lot of the songs that I've written, or just based on like a really unusual story that I find interesting, something like One Last Drink. But there were a lot of these love stories that came in, and I wanted to find a way to represent these in that idea in a song. So, bits and pieces of it came from the 25 or so different love stories, letters that came in. But it's got a really catchy guitar line off the top, and I think Brian and Craig kind of figured that out together, I think.
Guitar and whistle, and actually, yeah, Craig wrote that part. I remember when we were first working on this song, I remember we played it like that guy up in Watertown, New York, or Saranac Lake or whatever had hired us to play at that old folks home, you remember? Mm-hmm. I remember playing this song on that stage.
Wow.
Sound check, trying to like work it out. And the first bunch of times that we played it, it was more of like a Jesse's Girl, or like the guitar parts that I was writing were a lot more power chord based, and it was a little heavier, and it really sounded just like an 80s rock song. And none of us were like super thrilled with the approach. But when we got into Bruce's place and we were working on the arrangement of it, I remember Craig played, either you played it on the whistle and then I copied it on guitar, or you told me what to play or something. That main, it's a very kind of like Coldplay U2 kind of part. And then, yeah, the song kind of came together after that, I think. It kind of started making sense.
I think the accordion's really cool, and
right.
And not an obvious choice in a song like this, but I think it really adds a lot of adds kind of a glue to the that part of the mix, I feel like.
That's right. So that accordion player, oh no, her name is escaping me at the moment, but I'll look it up and put it in.
Kelsey,
Kelsey?
wasn't it?
Kelsey.
Yeah.
Kelsey, yes. If I'm not mistaken, we met her because we went to record cellos with Mike Olson. As we got there, she was leaving, or as we were leaving, she arrived or something. We just briefly introduced ourselves, and she said that she was an accordion player. And I don't know whose idea it was. Maybe it was yours to like put accordion in, doubling all those guitar parts that I played through the choruses. And it's cool. It does. I mean, I'm not going to say it makes it sound rootsy, but it gives it some organic element instead of doing it on a synth or something like that. What we're going to play here is a lyric video that I made for Cut the Lights, and I don't know what happened. I think I was up for like 2 days straight working on this because I didn't really know Final Cut at the time, and I downloaded a crap ton of stock footage, most of which has nothing to do with anything in the lyrics, and I just kind of cut them together with the lyrics.
It's my kid's favorite video that we've ever had simply because of the exploding pineapple. You gotta look at that.
It definitely works, though. I remember being very, very impressed when I saw it.
We did, Mark, I'll get you to relate a bit of the story if you don't mind. We did have one experience, one of the few times that we played this song live at the Iron Horse.
That's right, yeah. Well, first of all, I'll talk about the song. This is one, I always really liked this song. It's probably one of the most unique songs, like, to us, that we've really ever done. Disco pop.
Mhm.
It's always fun to play live. We stopped playing it live a while ago, but anyway, the story you're talking about is we have some friends from Pennsylvania area, Kim Gilly, Dalton Fitting is his last name.
That's right. Yep.
And one of our, I guess it would have been one of our yearly New Year's Eve shows at the Iron Horse in Northampton, Mass. It's where Dalton proposed to Kim in the middle of the song, I believe. I guess it was, wasn't it?
Yep. He had reached out to us in advance and said that it was her favorite song or their favorite song at the time, and requested that we play it. And I think even by that point we hadn't been playing it for a while because we had to run it over and sound check a few times to get it back up. And yeah, he came up on stage in the middle of the song and proposed to her. And she did say yes. The only other super memorable live thing for this for me, Trevor, didn't you go crowd surfing during this song?
Yeah, I did.
At the Westcott.
Mm-hmm.
And is that where you lost the batteries to your in-ears?
It's one of the places I lost batteries. Yeah, there's nothing like pausing a rock show after you've gone body surfing to have the fans look for your in-ear batteries down the floor.
And your pack, the actual pack, right?
Yeah,
like
the pack was
we actually found it and passed it up to the front and got it back to you so we could continue the show.
Yeah, our fans are amazing.
All right, well, we're going to get into the song. This one is called Cut the Lights. next song is probably the most Celtic sounding song on this album. This is a song called Astray. I actually wound up getting to the studio about a day and a half after the rest of these guys. After we had planned on being there, I was held up. And by the time I got there, I guess they'd gone through a lot of the setup that they planned on doing, and they'd had some extra time, and Trevor had another song idea. So they wrote this whole song and had it arranged and ready to go when I got to the studio. So I'll let them talk about that process a bit because I wasn't there for it.
As I was mentioning these guys off camera, you can tell songs that we've jammed on a lot, just kind of playing with each other and just kind of going on ideas, because there's a lot of interaction with the drums, bass, acoustic guitar, as opposed to like a crafted pop song or something that where you kind of like make your parts based off of chord changes and the melodies and things like that. But yeah, it was fun one to jam out, and I really liked the that vocal intro thing too.
I'll talk a little bit about that. I think maybe because I wasn't really involved in the writing of this song, I wound up being very heavily involved in the production.
Overcompensating, yeah.
Yeah, probably. I played, so first of all, on the way to the studio one day, we were listening to WCLZ, and there was a song by the band Elbow, who I'd never heard before. And they did this thing in this song that was on the radio. I still don't know what song it was. I've tried to find it since. That had this like cool tremolo Rhodes that would just kind of hit on the beginning of verses and go do 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 kind of thing. And it was a really cool texture. And so I ran into the studio and got Jonathan to plug a tremolo into his Rhodes, and I put that underneath. So one of these guys had come up with the idea, I guess Trevor, in the writing, to do that kind of chanty intro. The oh na oh na 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 oh na oh na na na. And so we did a bunch of takes singing that and stacking all these different notes. It's just about every note in the scale is in that chord. And then I had Jonathan bust the vocals out, run them out through a pedal distort them, and then run them out through a pedal that I had that was a pitch shifter pedal. It was a Boss PS1, so you could set the interval you want it to go and the speed you want the shift to happen, and when you press it down, it'll just bend to that note. So I did like a big dive bomb, and then oh na oh na 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 oh na oh na 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 oh na na na, and did that on both sides stereo for the intro of the song. I don't think we did it for the outro, but it's a crazy sound, and it's a testament to Jonathan's abilities as a producer that I explained to him the sound that I wanted to create, and that he was able very quickly to like figure out the way to do it, and it turned out exactly the way I wanted it to. So I thought that was pretty cool. I love the outro. I love like how epic this song gets. Just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But again, one that we've never performed live because there's just so many instruments and things. So I would love to get this one up to a point where we could perform it.
Yeah, with Rose on stage, we could do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, there's a violin. There's a really weird sound in the middle of the song in the solo, and it is actually my violin, but I ran it through the what do you call the rotary speaker, the Leslie, in the studio. So distorted it, ran it through the Leslie, and ran it through my pitch shifter pedal. So at the end of it, you hear the wow, wow, wow thing, kind of like Johnny Mooring. So that's, I mean, not a sound that I could ever emulate live, really, but it was really cool running a violin through a Leslie and just cranking the hell out of it. So that's what that sound is, for those of you playing along at home. Trev, do you want to just quickly talk about the story of the song? Because it is a pretty incredible story.
Yeah, this was one of the songs was based on a very, not just a theme, but on a very specific story about a Jewish man who had been survived through the Holocaust, but his family, he didn't know where they were, and he was convinced that they didn't survive the war. He ended up moving to the U.S., I believe, and then it was 50 years later that I can't remember exactly how it happened, but he reconnected with his brother. His parents had died by that point of natural causes, but yeah, it was a 50-year period where he thought, essentially his entire family had died.
And they thought he had died.
That's right. They didn't think he had survived either. So, yeah, terribly tragic story. One of obviously millions from that time period, but one that yeah, I've I think it's important to continue telling stories like that. You know, the ink on my arm is the concentration camp tattoo. You know, there's a lot of very specific references, obviously, to the story in the song.
Yeah, it's a cool track. Sonically, it's really, really interesting. So let's get into it. This is Astray.
Astray in the barn, dust in my lungs, and no way to get back. Under the gun, I'll slip, and you're done like the day.
How many times does the Jubilee Riots logo appear in the video for the song Trying Times?
This next song is my mother-in-law's favorite Enter the Haggis / Jubilee Riots song, I think. It's called Lived a Life. And it's another one of the kind of folkier ones on the album. Bruce, I really like the sound of your drums on this song. Did you do something different, or like it was? I didn't mean that the way it sounds.
Not particularly. I mean, it's sort of just kick and snare mostly, right? Just kind of a train sort of beat.
A different snare. It's a pretty deep sounding snare.
Yeah, it's like it's sort of really muffled and padded up, so it has kind of a thuddy sound, like a baseball bat hitting a wedding cake.
Is that what you were going for?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I like that image a lot.
You've been to a wedding where that happened?
Many.
We had to do a radio edit for this song because it was one of the songs that some of the radio stations wanted to play, but the tracker who we hired, the radio promoter who we hired, told us that in order to get it on a lot of radio stations, we couldn't include one line. What was it, Trevor?
Piss on the Berlin Wall.
That's right. Apparently, the problem wasn't even the word piss. It was specifically piss on. You couldn't have a reference to pissing on something. You could piss off the Berlin Wall, like standing on top of it and seeing, what kind of a radius you can get.
You'd piss over the Berlin Wall.
Probably fine. But for whatever reason, pissing on the Berlin Wall was a no-go. So I had to create a radio edit. And apparently that was good because it got played on a bunch of radio stations.
I don't know why. I at the time I thought our music needed more swearing. I think it was because I had 2 young kids at home. I was like, I don't want to get soft here. We had to keep an edge to our music. So I think I had like a few other swear words in some of the songs that we eventually self-edited out before we recorded them. This is kind of a one last drink, celebrating life themed song. And again, this comes from, if you were somebody who wrote in a letter about losing a loved one, there's probably some of your story in this song. There were a bunch of letters that came in with this kind of idea in it. And though I used some of my own traveling references in it, I think there's a bunch of times where I've been in a rusty bus on the mountainside. I think about even the band touring up through Colorado, or coming down from Colorado into New Mexico, and mountain goats coming across and all that kind of stuff,
This one's called Live the Life.
Someone, and when you die, you live. like a monarch in El Paso. It's a rusty bus on the mountainside, and we're passing with our eyes closed. If your body's sore, it's 'cause you've done something. If the sun is in your eyes, then you're alive. If your heart is worn, it's 'cause you loved someone. When you die, you lived a life. You lived a life. You lived a life. You lived a life. You lived a life.
Next song is a song called Rapture, and it was inspired specifically by the letter that came to us from Leah Backus. And yeah, it's kind of a bluesy, kind of like the band kind of song. Yeah, I really like the vibe of it personally, and we all kind of added bits and pieces. I know Craig and I worked on that trumpet part together, and yeah, there's that cool synth solo in the middle. I know we tried to avoid going in the obvious direction. It could have a guitar, like a blues guitar solo, certainly could have sat very well in the mix, but I think Brian was going for something a little more unusual.
Yeah, I remember having the conversation because it is very much just like a blues rock song. Sometimes we chase these genre songs a little too far in their obvious direction, and then it just sort of loses some of its personality and like what makes it specific to us. So there's a song by the band Keen, who are a cool Scottish pop group, I think. Mm-hmm. And it's on their first album, and it had this synth sound in one of the ballad songs that was just kind of this soaring synth. And I was basically trying to emulate that sound. I've gone back and listened to the song since and realized that it actually sounds nothing like what I came up with, but that's where the inspiration came from. That's that Moog Little Fatty again. It's a really cool instrument. Line in the chorus, light up a joint like a firefly captured. And I think about that line, not because I'm lighting a lot of joints right now, but because there's a ton of fireflies in my backyard, so I see them pretty much every night.
Doesn't necessarily have to, allude to drugs. Just you light up the joint, you light up the place, you have a sparkling personality. You're a firefly. I don't know. Stuff like that.
Even more so when you're high.
Yeah, it's true.
I remember recording this song more live than some other songs. I don't know if we did a bunch of songs live on this record, just meaning playing all together. But this one I do remember being in the vocal booth, singing while the band was recording. At least I think maybe not the trumpet, but I think the three of you guys were recording your parts live. And yeah. We're trying to go for when we have the ability to. In some studio settings, you have to do it bit by bit. You have to do the drums first because there's no isolation. You can't have stuff kind of coming into the drum mics. It just makes things very difficult afterwards. But this Jonathan studio is set up in a great way where we could have a few guys in sort of the main room with the drums without making any noise. We could have the amps in other rooms, but they could still be playing and looking at each other. And I was in the vocal booth doing vocal takes at the same time. I can't remember if any of the vocal takes I did there actually made it to the final version, but yeah, there's a nice live feel about the recording of the band anyway.
I think that was Jonathan's approach, was that even if we weren't going to be keeping parts, he wanted as many of us to be playing as possible when they were doing the bass and the drums and stuff, just to make it feel like we were a band playing. And for me, there's a lot of guitar parts on this record that I really like that I wrote, both in pre-production and, but then also just because while Mark and Bruce were doing their parts, hey guys, say something, Trevor, so the camera goes to you.
Oh, hello.
Oh, we missed it.
Swimmers back from the lake.
I was just going to say, I got to sit there in the studio because it was big enough and it was wired and play along with Bruce and Mark the entire time they were doing their takes, which meant that I just got so much more time to practice and refine the parts that I was going to eventually play, which is cool.
I remember going up over the trumpet parts for this because I think, Trevor, it was your initial idea, the sort of the melodic line in there, the sort of the main theme that we kick off with. And I remember thinking, I don't know if this is really going to work. Is this the best line? Or, you know, I remember bouncing it all off of Mark, because Mark, most of you won't know this, but that was your principal instrument for a while, wasn't it, Mark?
It was through school, and then I did a year of college with classical trumpet. And then I just didn't keep it up, so my embouchure is no longer, but yeah, well, it was for a while.
Keep trying to convince Mark to get back on a horn so he could do some harmonies.
I tried playing it a little while ago, and I couldn't even make a sound out of it, barely.
I know that there was a lot of discussion at various times with this particular song about doing harmonica instead of trumpet. I know, Craig, you suggested that a bunch of times, and I think that fell, for me and Trevor anyway, it fell into the category of sort of what would be the expected sound in a song like this, and it would have worked beautifully. I'm sure it would have been great, but it just felt like we might be able to do something a bit more unusual if we got you on the trumpet instead.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that we did go with the trumpet, because it's definitely my favorite thing, my favorite line that I play on trumpet for any of the songs we have. I think this is, you know, if it's not my favorite, it's very close to my favorite of any of the songs that Trevor's written. And, you know, it really gets me sometimes, you know, just when I think about some of the lyrics and about, you know, our dream of a farm and stuff like that, you know, it's pretty cool. And I think it really speaks to a lot of people, and, you know, what they'd like to get out of life or what they'd like to get out of a relationship.
Sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I remember, you know, going in to record the trumpet part and just, man, this is after bouncing it off Mark 50 times, and I don't know how many times off of Trevor. And finally, you know, just went in there. I was like, okay, well, I'm here in front of a microphone with a trumpet. How's this gonna go? And, you know, I had the cans on, the track kicked off, and I just played the line that Trevor had written, and I was like, well, that's the line. Yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yep, it's definitely one of my favorites too. And when Rose and I play shows, when we just play as a duo, or even sometimes the trio with Caroline, if there's a show where we need an extra song, this is often the one that I pull out. So Rose and I sing it, and yeah, it's a nice track. And we do have somewhat of a music video for it, so that's what I'm going to be playing right now. We recorded it at Aeolian Hall in London, Ontario, and this one is called Rapture.
Does the time go? Self-righteous and rude, leaving the table with full of food. Where does the time go? So top of the wine, tell me a good one. Something about horses and the deputy son. Life a joint like a firefly captured. Laugh about all that we've done. In a basement apartment with no clock on the stove, but always some company around. Yeah, we were never lonely. So top of the wine, tell me a good one. Something about horses and the deputy son. Life a joint like a firefly captured. Life about all that we've done. Since the rapture, since the rapture, with a dog in the yard, cobwebs in the basement and an old wooden barn. Yeah, that's our dream of a farm. So top of the wine, tell me a good one. Something about horses and the deputy son. Life a joint like a firefly captured. Life about all that we've done. Since the rapture, since the rapture.
Hello again, another trivia question, and this one's going to pertain to the name Enter the Haggis used for Penny Black, Jubilee Riots. And the Jubilee Riots were, well, riots that happened in our hometown, Toronto, Canada, between two political and religious groups. And the question is, when did the Jubilee Riots occur? Don't Google.
Once again, we are on to the final song on a record. We are going to move on to Song Plays On, which is another one that, if I'm not mistaken, we've never played live.
I mean, I remember talking about the experience that my parents went through when they were kids, because they lived in Glasgow, Scotland. Well, my dad was evacuated, during World War II. And my mother, she stayed in Glasgow, and what they did, well, at one point they, Clydebank, Glasgow was very big on the shipping business. At one point, Clydebank, in a part of Glasgow, it was bombed. So there was pretty heavy damage there. And I remember my mom talking about how during all of this, during these raids and whatever, they would all go to the bomb shelters, and they would spend the time in there, and they would play games, and they would sing songs, and they would do all kinds of things to distract themselves from what was going on outside. And it worked. Yeah, basically the story was that he had, I believe, an uncle was sent over to Germany. He was a piano player, so they were arriving in these areas that had been bombed out. Job one was to find a functioning piano that was half decently in tune, so they could play some music and kind of raise their spirits a little bit.
Yeah, he was like an army engineer he had to go in to assess the damage in buildings that had been bombed. But he was a piano player too, so if he found a piano, he would sit down and make some music. So
yeah, and I thought it was pretty cool. By the end, by the time we get to the end of this thing, we've got about every instrument going that you could have going. And I think, Brian, you wanted to
20 people singing too. Yeah.
What's that?
Plus about 20 voices singing as well.
Yeah, we sped up the tape, and I remember, you were you were in the control room with Jonathan, and it was like, okay, well, play anything. Okay, just
Oh, that's right.
whatever.
That was a very ballsy thing we did. Yeah, we slowed down the tape. Is what we did. We slowed it way down, and then we had Craig go in and just kind of improvise on random notes and kind of play fairly quickly over the slowed down tape. And then we sped it all back up again. It jumped his trumpet way up like an octave or two, and also made it sound crazy, crazy fast. And yeah, it was a George Martin kind of technique, but I forgot we did that. Yeah, I played that Moog synth all over this one too. There's those there's like really huge bass notes, and a lot of guitars, lots of stuff. Matt Carlin played trombone on this track. Does anybody remember? He didn't come to the studio with a trombone. We just found out that he played trombone, and we made someone go get one, right?
Yeah, that's right. We had to go find him a trombone, and man, he aced it.
Yeah, he's a serious.
He was a great player. Yeah.
Does anybody remember the name of his band to give him a shout out?
Oh.
Circonian Rhythm.
Circadian.
Circadian Rhythm.
Circadian Rhythm, yes. That is Matt's band, and they're awesome. I remember, Bruce, you pulling up some Snarky Puppy songs to play for us as we were working on this track. I don't know if any of that really kind of made its way into the sound of the song, but I remember listening to that at the studio.
Yeah, I was really into them back at that point. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that band, but more of an instrumental band, although they do have guest vocalists from time to time. But highly recommend checking out their music if you haven't had the opportunity. They've since had a great deal of success, but I don't remember how it played into this song specifically, but
we and Matt helped us put together the guest vocalists. We wanted them to just kind of shout those few lines sort of throughout the song, but then he had them singing all those cool ascending big vocal parts over the end of the song. And it's kind of cool because the album starts with Trying Times, which has all those huge voices, and then it ends with Song Plays On and kind of fades out over the ending. And it was cool. So many people there involved. And
that was probably, I guess, if there was maybe a Snarky Puppy influence, that sort of this kind of epic expanding arrangement, with like all kinds of things joining in and people riffing and stuff like that. That's kind of a hallmark of their music, I would say.
Yeah. If we ever see each other again and ever get back on a stage again, maybe we will take some time to learn some of these older songs. So thank you for joining us once again this week. We hope you had a good time with us and had a good time answering the trivia questions and learning some backstory of some of these songs. Just wanted to switch over to the gallery view so that everybody can kind of wave goodbye. We will see you in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be going back through our album Broken Arms, and that's the last studio album. We've gone through all of them now. So we're going to have to figure out what we do after that, because we don't want to give up these parties. So we're going to put our heads together and come up with some fun listening activities after that. So thanks so much. Thanks for contributing in the chat and in the tip jar at enterthehaggis.com/tip jar. We've had a wonderful time with you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
This is called Song Plays On.
It's all painted black with soot, but here we are. You can't stop the sound, 'cause the melody is the lifeboat when the mothership goes down. Sirens scream, hey, here come the bombs. No, we should be running, but the song plays on. No, we should be running, but the song plays on. The enemy is coming, but we're standing strong. We know we should be running, but the song plays on. A crooked smile and busted teeth. There's a dozen missing hammers and a couple missing feet. So hit the chords and we'll find the key. But there's a dirty minor second where a major third should be. Sirens scream, hey, here come the bombs. We know we should be running, but the song plays on. We know we should be running, but the song plays on. The enemy is coming, but we're standing strong. We know we should be running, but the song plays on. London calling, friendly fire. A blackbird sings a sonnet on a rusty razor wire. It's coming down, but we'll drown it out. It doesn't matter.